Call to order the City Commission meeting for September 8, 2016. First item is consider the approval of the minutes from August 25th. Stand as written. Seeing none. First order of business, I'd like to recognize Eber Phelps for serving as mayor of Hayes from April 15th through September 2016. I would definitely like to thank you for what you brought to the city of Hayes, and I've enjoyed being your vice mayor. You never let me do much, but that's all right. And the reason we normally used to change over in April, but with the state changing to November election, we've kind of changed how we transitioned. So a few things that happened during your term was we continued the long-term water supply progress, and we're making good progress. Filing applications to implement the water solution from the R9 Ranch. Approved 2016 and 2017 budgets, balance and static mill levy. Water conservation, continued the educational outreach. I know you were at almost all the schools that I seen you at. Turf conversion rebate program, toilet urinal replacement program, and washing machine rebates. With the Hayes Regional Airport, we continued our marketing with United Express SkyWest Marketing, Crosswind Runway Rehabilitation, and just signed a 2016 through 2018 EAS contract with SkyWest. We started the process for the wastewater treatment plant with the upgrade and replacement. We've had golf course improvements for the pro shop restroom upgrade, golf course cart storage shed rebuild. We've had the park improvements with Kiwanis Park. We've had quite a bit with planning and zoning, strong town discussions, zoning, regulation, rewrite process, presented with various plat, rezoning, annexation requests, various street infrastructure improvements, approval of United Development Code, sister cities relations. You were very instrumental on the Santa Maria Paraguay delegation. You named an honorary street delegation on 13th Street, and I personally thought you knocked it out of the park when those guys were here. I mean, they kept saying over and over how you made them feel like they were at home, and they definitely want to come back. And you personally drove them around our community, showing them what we have, and I thought that was unbelievable. We got the I-70 monument signs ready to go. We did economic development policy revisions. We had the swift cleanup of tree limb from windstorms. You reached out to many of the employees, thanked them, and at commission meetings, you over and over how many people complimented the city for what they did. Event attendance, presentation of various proclamations, some of them very long. Various committee board appointments and attendance at those committee meetings. And for me personally, is I've got to serve the last I guess 3.5 years, and you've just been unbelievable. You haven't missed a meeting. I thought maybe I'd get a chance to run a meeting, kind of learn how to do this, but I'm going to learn on the fly. But I appreciate everything you brought to the city. You're just very stand up. I mean, I always loved how when somebody came to talk to us, whether they disagreed or agreed, you treated them fair, and I think it's a big part of our community, and I just really appreciate that. So I want to present a plaque to you if you want to come out front here.
Look forward to working with you. Mr. Mayor, if I could be recognized for a point of personal privilege?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I learned from the late Dan Johnson when I served in the legislature with him was he always said when you're having any kind of a meeting or anything and you're thanking people, he said, always thank your wife first. So thank you, Joni, for putting up with me being, doing this for the last few years, and especially all the time that it, took to be mayor. Sean's family, I hope you'll be patient with him as well. Anybody that serves as mayor will know that you mentioned all the things that we approved or voted on as city commissioners. There's a ton of things going on out there in the community. And so thank yous are in order. And I want to thank my fellow commissioners. You guys have been really great to work with. I appreciated your respect and your attention to detail and all the things that we just accomplished. You read those off. Those happened under the year and a half that I was mayor, but of course it took 5 of us to tango, so to speak. So thank you for all that you've done. I want to thank the staff here in City Hall. You'll find this out as serving as mayor, and I know we all know it as city commissioners. The staff here is unbelievable. You will definitely get to know Andrea very well. The department heads, I can't say enough about the people that run our various departments here in the city of Hayes. Do a wonderful job, and we are able to deliver, I think, a good product to the citizens of Hayes, whether it be ample supply of water and good streets to get to and from work and to school. So staff and our department heads, I want to thank you very much. And then a special thanks, if I may, to the citizens as a whole here in the city of Hayes. It's been an honor to serve as your mayor, and I also look forward to continuing that service here on the City Commission. The people of Hayes, I think, are just absolutely top flight. So in thinking about that, I kind of reflected a little bit, not only in the past year and 5 months or so, but I look back my first tenure on the City Commission over 20 years ago. And during that time, 1995, we were designated as an All-American City. And I know I've tried to continually bring up some historical events here, as a member of the City Commission. But when we were designated as a All-American City, I think little did everybody know that it was going to take a lot of work. And so for probably a better part of a year, we had a number of citizens volunteering to help with that effort. And I'm sure the people in the clerk's office and the city manager's office did yeoman's work on that. So when you're recognized as a All-American City according to their bylaws or their criterion, you have to be able to present 3 initiatives that your community started or is in the middle of or at least completed. And so, as I mentioned, we had a great volunteer group step forward. Some of these people were very involved in some of the things that we presented. I wasn't part of the presentation group. I took no credit for that whatsoever, but we had some wonderful people involved. Our 3 initiatives that were part of the program that they presented at the national, I guess you could call it competition, with the other cities, was the volunteerism in the city of Hayes. And of course, I know the commissioners are aware of how many people step forward, step to the plate and do things on a daily basis. And so that effort doesn't go unnoticed. And they really kind of framed that and talked about the number of service organizations we have in Hayes and the number of projects and so forth. So Sean, as mayor, you'll get to see that even more so than you did as a commissioner, because whether it's ribbon cuttings or making improvements at Larks Park, if you've been down to Larks Park, you've all seen, and a lot of that was volunteer work. Second thing was our curbside recycling program. There's many people involved in that effort. There was a lot of pushback, a lot of naysayers. One of the reasons we did that was because it was too expensive to develop I believe it as a subtitle D landfill, I think is the term. And so we had to truck our waste out of here, and one way to cut down that cost was to really implement an aggressive and well-run recycling program. And that got off the ground, and lo and behold, those that said nobody would participate in that, I think we have, to this day, over 80% participation. And I can't say enough about all our efforts back then in this community on water conservation. And of course, part of the presentation by the All-American Citizen Group was the not only the water conservation, but previous to that, they talked about our purchase of the R9 Ranch. But the water conservation program here is second to none. We have probably the lowest per capita water consumption in a 5-state area. In fact, we're pretty much a model. And so part of that presentation, some 20-some years ago, involved our water conservation efforts as well as the the R9 Ranch. And basically they framed that in the framework of solving our long-term water needs. So let's fast forward here, and one of the reasons I brought that up about 20-some years ago is I look at where things are at now. Mayor Musel mentioned the education programs we were doing here in the community, but all three of those things that we kind of rode to glory on 20-some years ago was volunteerism. And as you know, in this community, it's unbelievable. Our parks and all the things we've seen, that continues on to this day. The recycling program still has probably an 80+% participation. If you ever have a chance, go out and look at our recycling center. It's a very busy place and very efficient, and obviously you can drive down the streets and look down the alleys and you will see all the blue bags lined up and the cardboard and so forth, so people are participating. Our long-term water efforts, Mayor Musel mentioned, we put in the applications for the Water Transfer Act. The education programs continue to this day. And so one of the reasons I mentioned 20 years ago and now is that was not a one-time shot. That became a sustained effort. It became part of our lifestyle. And contrary to when we implemented water conservation, everybody didn't move from Hayes, and people did, continue to move here. So it was a bold move, and I'm just really happy to see that those three things that made us an all-American city continue to this day. So I think I can faithfully say that we still are an all-American city, in my point of view, and we've got great citizens here, and I've enjoyed working with so many of them. Also, this past year was it was really, I think, gratifying to be part of that application process for the Water Transfer Act. We've now presented it as a regional water supply, and so we've got really got the attention of the people in the Department of Water Resources looking at that, because we're going to solve many problems with just that one effort. It's not just beneficial to Hayes. So thank you, Mayor Musel, for this time that you've allowed me to kind of reflect a little bit. I wish you all the best. I wish you Godspeed. And my fellow commissioners, once again, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. The good thing is you're not going anywhere just yet.
I'm hungry. Hurry. Just kidding.
Next item on the agenda is citizen comments for non-agenda items. If there's anybody, seeing none. We'll go on to the consent agenda. There are some mayoral appointments, but there's no action taken tonight on that, correct?
Right.
But just for approval. Any action?
Maybe September 22nd.
Yeah, September 22nd. Next item on is the Large Park concessions and safety net project.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Boyle, Director of Parks. I'd like to visit with you for a few minutes about a project that we did down at Larks Park, speaking of volunteerism and community pride. For years, the concessions at Larks Park have been an issue, a topic of discussion throughout our community. The condition was just not up to speed, and so we started looking at ways to make this right and make it look nice and make it more usable. And so we looked at several options that were out there. The favorite option was to actually build a new concession stand. Now the costs were higher, Because it's in the floodplain, it required elevation. And so because of that, the size and the elevation of the structure, it just became not affordable for us. And so we sat down, we talked a little bit more about it, and we decided that part of the problem is that we have this one structure and everything goes into this one structure, and that takes away from cooking space, concession space. So we discussed the idea of putting in a couple of small storage buildings for those items that didn't have to be in the concession stand, and then refurbishing the existing concession stand to make it more user-friendly. So this is what the concession stand used to look like. This is right after we started construction. You'll notice behind the concession stand, there's a couple of pads poured. Those are where the small storage buildings are going. And as we progress along here, you can see that we poured additional concrete. Those are the poles for a covered area for folks to get underneath, get out of the shade, get out of the rain, whatever it may be. So we continued progressing here. I'm sorry, I'm having troubles with this. There we go. This is a almost finished product, and as you can see, everything's matching. The buildings have been redone. Nice metal framed covered awning, again for folks to get under. This is an example during the process, the interior of the concession stand. You can see the walls, how nice and clean they are. They've been redone. The door is still from the old concession stand, so that gives you an idea kind of what it looked like in there. If you can just imagine that going around the entire concession area. Electrical wasn't necessarily up to par in the building and the structure. So a lot of things going on here. The air conditioners, it was a window air conditioner in there that did not function very well. This is from inside the concession stand looking at the serving windows. So kind of give you a little perspective there of the final product, what folks would see if they were to look in there. A complete 100% change from where we were at. This is the almost final project. There was a little bit of soffit work done on this structure here after this picture was taken, but this is literally the final product. And it has worked well. All summer long it has worked well. I've had nothing but compliments on the structure, the area in general. So just a wonderful addition to the Larks Park area. In addition to the concession area, one of the discussions was safety netting. A lot of times, kids and folks will gather along these. This is the first base sideline here. A lot of folks will gather along here, and there can be direct shots coming across this wall into this crowd of people. So one of the things that we looked at and completed was the safety netting, and we did this in-house using park staff. The materials were purchased collectively, but as you can see, and the dumpsters aren't normally there. This was after the season was over, but as you can see now, there's safety netting from where you enter the dugout all the way down to the bullpen or the batting cage area, and across that batting cage there. So much safer than it was. This is the third base line, and again, and you can just tell by the tables, this is where a lot of folks line up to watch the game, and again, direct shots. And so we also did this side here. As you can see, the netting goes again from the dugout all the way down and across, so literally everybody in that area is protected now. So these are some of the things that we kind of look at when we have in varying park areas where we want to always control our things that could become safety issues, and this was one of them. So was very pleased to get that part of it done. Funding sources. This is a list of the funding sources to help pay for the entire project. As you can see, this was a group effort. This didn't just come from one source. This was a joint effort of many folks, many donors to the project. The final project, for getting the job done for that kind of money, you'll see why we were able to do it here in just a second. But when we talk about community pride, this is exactly what we're talking about here. Wouldn't have been able to do this project without these folks. List of some other donations: Johnny Fuller Concrete, Kent Loss, Bruce Rumbaugh. These are all necessary things that we needed. They jumped in, helped us out, made it happen. NCK Votech, Bruce Shoemaker, Leon Shoemaker. M&D Excavating, Barry Tabor, Nathan Meyer with CT Electric. Other donations, Ellis County Concrete, Heartland Building Center was huge in this, so we'd sure like to thank them as well. Leon's Welding, Dennis Budke, and then Brian Dreiling, Keith Harper, and Coach Frank Leo. I might mention, this whole project started with Brian Dreiling, Keith Harper, and Coach Leo. They were instrumental in making this happen. So they were, from the very beginning, involved and stayed involved throughout the entire project. And I'd certainly like to thank you guys for your help on this. But it was a great project. Larks Park, we've done all this work at Larks Park to make it a nice facility. So you've got new infield turf, new backstops, all these new things, scoreboards, bleacher seating, and these sort of things. And then to have that old concession stand down there was just an eyesore. So we're really pleased. Any questions?
Amazing work. Appreciate the work that everyone did to make this happen. A lot of people know this is one of our best kept summer secrets. Great place to go. Thank you for making that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would agree, the atmosphere down there is the best place in the summertime, and Coach Leo, Harper, Brian, I appreciate what you guys do for us in the summertime, because that's, whether you like baseball or not, just the atmosphere, it just seems like everybody's down there in the summertime. And this summer when I was down there, along third base side, it's just a great place to hang out and chat with people and watch good baseball. So, and congratulations on your season, guys. You guys had a great run this year. Thank you, Jeff. No unfinished business. Next item on the agenda is 2016 sanitary sewer light cleaning and video inspection. Award a bid.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Crispin, Assistant Director of Utilities. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about the contract for sewer cleaning. In 2013, the Utilities Department initiated a multi-year program to clean sewer mains. Bids were solicited with a contract document that had a provision for contract annual renewal. Mayor Specialty Services, LLC, out of Goddard, Kansas, was awarded the contract in 2013, and then we had a contract extended in 2014 and 2015. Commission in 2015 asked for us to go out and rebid the sewer cleaning contract. In July of this year, we created a new request for proposal for sewer cleaning and video and sent it to 5 prospective bidders. Proper operation and maintenance of a collection system is required by our city's wastewater discharge permit. Problems caused by a lack of sewer cleaning include sewer backups, manhole overflows, public exposure to raw sewage, and regulatory fines. On average, municipalities are cleaning 29% of their sewer lines per year. The Utilities Department does have existing staff that does emergency call out for sewer backup repair or removal, The video that the contractor will capture as they clean provide early detection of flaws and allows for repairs before catastrophic failures. From 2013 to 2015, when Mayor was here, many cracks, holes, and tree root clogs were seen. The video from prior cleanings is being processed by our IT and utility department at this time, and they are creating work orders for repairs for root removal. City crews have started root removal and chemical treatment recently based on these sites that we videoed. Our goal is a baseline video of all 114 miles of sanitary sewer over 6 years to create a record of our asset. Basically, right now we have 3 of our 6 years completed. We will go back to compare previous videos, so any new video that we have will compare to our previous video to see if any flaws are changing that require additional repairs. In the past 3 years, city operators have cleaned our flushing maintenance route and about 1/6 of the regular lines by using one of our operators and one of our summer helpers each year. Mayor also cleaned 1/6 each year as well. This allowed our utilities department to reach our goal of 1/3 of our city, which is 40 miles per year, and that was in 2013 through 2015. Our intent, again, is to hire a contractor for 2016 to do 1/6 of the sewer lines, and our utility operators to do 1/6 to reach this goal of 1/3 of our city per year. In 2016, we have $120,000 budgeted in wastewater other contractual services. Our intent is to concentrate on the area of town to the east of Vine. So basically Vine running right up and down there on the map. The areas in red is the areas that we are going to concentrate on between I-70 and Highway 40. That area in red, and with a little bit up there to the west, that basically is 120,000 linear feet. The areas in blue on the west side of Vine, those areas were completed in 2013 through 2015. And then the areas that you see in green, those areas have yet to be completed. In August of this year, staff opened 4 proposals from the following bidders. We had ProPipe that came in 95 cents per linear foot. Mayor Specialty Services was $1.10 per linear foot. Infotrack Incorporated was $1.25 per linear foot. And Quality Pipe Services came in at $1.68 per linear foot. We had one that we also sent it to that did not return. They declined due to heavy workload. I might add that on ProPipe, we did go out and we had 6 great references that did come back, 3 out of Colorado, 3 out of California, but they do have their operation based over in Colorado with a superintendent and a crew that is ready to go. So tonight, I have 3 options for you. One is to accept the proposal from ProPipe for a contract light sewer cleaning at 95 cents per linear feet, not to exceed $120,000. 2, go out for new bids, or 3, provide alternative direction to city staff. Staff recommends accepting the proposal from ProPipe to clean and video sewer lines at 95 cents per linear foot, not to exceed $120,000 for light cleaning to be funded out of wastewater other contractual services. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute work authorization number 10 with, oh shoot, I'm on the wrong one. To enter into a contract with ProPipe to clean video sewer lines at 95 cents per linear foot, not to exceed $120,000 for light cleaning to be funded from wastewater and other contractual services.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Meyer. Jeff, I have a question. You told us last week when we went out for the rebid, how much savings was it compared to?
When we went out for rebid, last year we were at $1.21 per linear foot, and I did put $1.21 will be somewhere around $135,000 is what it would come out to this year. So I did add those in, but we would be right at $113,000 if we did all 119,000 linear feet at this time. And then subsequently all the way down, those are the extended prices of those.
So this is one time going for the rebid was definitely worth
Yes,
the time.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I have to admit, I was kind of scared to go out for rebid because I thought that looking at the prices last year, I didn't see them coming in this much lower. And actually, if we would have went with Mayor, we would have been paying $1.21 a linear foot too. So, in this particular case, it worked out very well for us to go out to rebid. I did have one question about their bid. They did the 95 cents a linear foot, regardless of the size of pipe. Is there a different process when you get to bigger? I would think it would be a harder process for them, but yet they bid the same price.
They were very aggressive with their pricing. The other ones were basically as an average per linear foot, but they were very, very aggressive on their pricing. So I'm very happy with that bid that came back.
So as far as the process goes, it's is it more difficult for them to clean the
No,
bigger
they have
lines?
the
or
equipment, and it's easy for them
It's
to
the
get
same-
into those lines, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question about the motion. If the bid is for $113,050, why are we doing a not to exceed that's greater than that amount? They're gonna clean more?
Possibly. Yeah, if they're in town under contract for not to exceed, if we find more that we think they can accommodate, we figure we could go up to the budget amount and get it done this year instead of waiting until next year.
Do we have an agreement with them as we had with Mayor that's over a multi-year with a not to exceed?
No.
Why didn't we pursue that this time?
Johnny O'Connor, Utilities Director. We didn't pursue it this time because of the capital maintenance program that we're putting together from all the video and with us raising rates. In order to do that, this is just a baseline. And when we come back and do capital maintenance and the repairs from the video, we want to make sure that we line up. So they're getting ready to wrap this up. We're actually going to complete a 6-year program in 5. So there's no need for a multi. And then when we do the capital maintenance, they will also provide video so we can actually go back and update our records with the newer video as we go through and do the repairs.
But this is the 4th year, right?
This is the 4th year, yeah.
So we're gonna
next
have to
year
bid
we'll-
this again next year
Yeah.
still though, right? So,
That's my concern. I mean, this is a very aggressive bid. Are they
Yeah.
betting on the come, as someone once said? I mean, they're betting,
Could
they
be.
did such a great job. Well, they could whipsaw us next year.
But we plan on going back out to bid next year too, and given the fact that bids are pretty favorable next year, I think we'll be competitive next year also.
These are also companies that can do the bigger work. So if they bid on our capital maintenance, we lessen the mobilization fee because they can bring in their equipment and be working in 2 different areas at the same time. And we also feel comfortable enough we're getting into a newer part of our system that we want to keep that competitive. It's not the old clay tile and stuff that's downtown. It's more newer PVC and stuff, so they can get through it a lot faster.
and as we discussed last week, even though we're going to a different contractor, they use the same type of software because we are taking video that's being tagged to a GPS
Yes.
for reference in later years, and there's going to be no problem tying that into our current software system.
No, we
Mayor used the
we
last 2
require
years.
a PACP certification, which is part of the industry, so that was part of the bid process. And they all agreed. We actually had to send out an update because we upgraded our system right after we sent out this RFP. So it actually forces them to go in and upgrade their systems as well. And they all agreed to that. So they're on version 7 of the PACP. They have to be certified so they can actually rate our system and give it a rating from 1 to 5. So they have to be certified to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is airport wildlife fence design contract.
All right. Greg Sun, Director of Public Works, and the issue before you tonight from the airport is the construction of a wildlife fence. This is a project that was identified by the FAA back in 2010. One of their inspectors saw some deer on the airport property. That led to a wildlife hazard assessment. And in order to, the outcome of that was conducted by the USDA was to build a wildlife fence. We have considered many other capital projects to be greater priorities than that over the years, and up until this year, the FAA has agreed with us that the capital projects we had on our 5-year plan took precedence over this fence. But when we were putting together the 5-year plan for the next 5 years, we tried to put on there the replacement of the front-end loader, and they were very firm in telling us that the next major project will be the perimeter fence. So we've put that into the 2017 plan. And The capital plan, it covers, the FAA will cover 90% of the costs. We are estimating that this project will cost about $2 million. So it's a considerably large project. The city's airport engineer is Burns and McDonald. They've put together an work authorization number 10, which defines the scope and fee of this project. As you can see, this is a very big fence. This is something that has evolved a little bit since the original design or the original idea came in. Originally, we were talking about just putting up the fence, and it became a fence with outriggers on the top and a 3-foot bury of fence into the ground, and it's just become more and more involved as we've moved this project forward. Because of that, the cost of this project, as I said, is estimated at $2 million, of which the design fees, the engineering fees, are $99,950. The city's obligation out of this project is $200,000, and it will be funded out of the Airport Improvement Fund. As with every FAA project, these are fairly involved in timeframes and what we have to meet in terms of what has to be projected at or delivered at any one time. So the engineering agreement, we are estimating approval in this month. Final plans and specifications on this project are January 17th. January of 2017. We opened bids February of 2017. And as required by the FAA, then the grant is submitted for the application in May. So the project drags out quite a bit, and we're still hoping that we're going to be able to construct this in the summer of 2017. This is how the costs lay out for the project. So that, as I said, the city share is $99,000, or the city share is $200,000 of the $99,950 contract with Burns and McDonald, we would pay $9,995. This is how the project lays out. As with other recommendations we put together, we recommend the approval of this engineering contract for design services. However, because of the insistence of the FAA, I'm not sure do nothing is really an option with this project. We are under a lot of obligations with the FAA. They fund a lot of things at the airport. And when they've made this more or less a mandate for us, I think it's something we have to move forward with. So staff recommendation on this is to approve a motion for work authorization number 10 with Burns and McDonald Engineering Company for engineering services as presented. The action requested is to authorize the city manager to execute work authorization number 10 with Burns and McDonald contingent on FAA approval in the amount of $99,950 with the city share to be funded out of the Airport Improvement Fund. Are there any questions?
Can I go ahead and make the motion?
I'd move that we authorize the city manager to execute work authorization number 10 with Burns and McDonald contingent on FAA approval in the amount of $99,950 with the city share to be funded out of Airport Improvement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Jones on the airport wildlife fence. Any questions, guys?
What is, go ahead, sir.
Where does the engineering fee come from?
They break it down, they have a complete breakdown on how they come up with the fees. First, the Assistant Director of Public Works puts together an estimate of what he thinks the engineering fee should cost, and there's an overhead charge in it that this year is 213%. So they estimate what their hours are, and then they have an overhead cost, which is the cost of running the entire operation and how it fits into this project. And those fees are determined by an independent auditing firm, so it's not something that comes from Burns and McDonald. And the amount of the overhead can vary every year. They base it on the actual amount of time they think the various engineers and support staff will spend on the project. This information has been reviewed by the FAA, and it falls within the guidelines of what they set for the project.
So it's not Burns and Mac telling us this is what it's gonna cost. They're just our reps. So if we went with a different company, wouldn't it be any cheaper for us?
If we had a different company, it's possible the overhead cost could be a little different for any one firm, what it costs for them to maintain buildings, staff, those kind of things. The industry standard for engineering fees probably aren't a whole lot different across the board, but they can vary somewhat from firm to firm.
Also, we're dealing with FAA, and they do things in request for qualifications, and they do things differently. So we went through, a few years back, we went through a very rigorous process to vet engineers and select the firm that we utilize. We ended up selecting Burns and McDonnell, and then, as you can see, we're on, I think, addendum number 10. As we move forward with them, then there's these little negotiated contracts to move forward. We've been very happy with Burns McDonnell's work to date. They deal well with FAA, they deal well with managing the grants and all the other things that come with the FAA. And so if we ever reach a point of staff where we feel like it's probably not in our best interest to move forward, then we would have to go back through that request for qualification negotiation process that the FAA oversees to select another engineer. I don't believe we have the option just to go out and say, we're going to do request proposals for engineering services here, because they are a designated engineer.
Burns and McDonald has informed us that sometime in the next year or so, we're going to have to do that. I think it's a 5-year allowance under the FAA.
Thank you.
Questions?
What is the balance in the airport improvement fund?
Right at about 165,000.
And that's funded through,
Mainly the passenger facility charge.
right,
And we continue to collect that, so once we get into 2017 and fund this, we should be fine.
But this project will probably burn up all of the money we have.
oh, yes, yes, it will.
This is a very large project.
And I certainly appreciate the help of the FAA. And again, I've not designed a fence for an airport, but that's a very impressive fence.
You mentioned that doing nothing isn't an option. Can you go through what would happen if we do nothing?
There's all sorts of possibilities that could happen, but because we have received a considerable amount of FAA funding over the years in terms of these types of projects, it's possible at some point we could get to where we would have to reimburse them for the amount of money that they have provided to the airport.
There's a lot of
So-
clawbacks in this situation.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of options once we get to this point.
They also control our Part 135 certification, which allows us to have commercial passenger service. So I think if they truly wanted to play hardball, they could tell us that until this gets done,
No more
passenger
flights.
service could be threatened, and then they could yank that.
Right, because I think that before we had said, there's projects that won't get funded, but really where the rubber meets the road is no more airport, right?
Yeah, they can get real tough if they wanted to.
Good.
Is there any negotiating with them on the size of the fence? Like, can we make it
Make it
7 or
Foot
shorter and only buried 1.5 feet underground? I mean, that would save a lot of money.
This is the standard that they have set, and they're having numerous airports put them in. And I don't think we realized until just about a year ago that they were going to talk about burying the stuff in the ground 3 feet. So that was kind of a new thing.
That doesn't seem like it keep deer out. It seems like it keep terrorists out or something type of fence.
It's
not
supposed to be there to keep burrowing animals out,
Well, I
like
understand the
badgers.
depth, the height is a little bizarre, but
So can local contractors, do they have the ability to bid on something like this?
They could. I'm not sure if you'd get many local contractors to handle something this large and be
It'd have
able
to
to
be on
bond
the
the
list.
project.
Right.
to be a approved federal contractor, right, John? And does Davis Bacon apply to this?
Probably, but there's a procedure that everybody can go through to get on that list. It's not
It's not
that
impossible.
they can't do it, it's just that probably they don't want to gear up to do just this project. I'm going to suspect that there are several dozen companies around the country that do nothing but this at this point.
I just, if we're gonna spend that amount of money, it sure be nice to keep it local, but I know it's probably not possible.
Do you have an outline of where the fence is going to be? I've had people who live close to the airport ask what this is going to do to their view.
We have not determined the outline yet. When this initially was developed as a project, we were thinking a perimeter fencement around the airport. But now we're also dealing with issues like 100-year flood zones in terms of we've got pipes that go, drainage pipes that go under the crosswind runway. I'm not sure if they go under the main one, but somehow we have to work out those, so it might have bends and curves. And my fear with that is when you do those kind of things, you add length to this thing. So
So we get
this
an
is,
option on the design though, locally, or
Hmm?
we get an option on how it's designed locally?
Yeah, we'll be very much involved in the design of the project. And Burns and McDonald has already been looking at this to some extent and how close we can get the fence to the runway and still meet the requirements, because if we can take advantage of not having to extend pipe, those kind of things, that will keep the cost down.
Right, because that's what I was thinking, is there's kind of two schools of thought. If you get it closer to the runway, that's less fence you have to build, so your cost should go down. But then if you ever expand, then you have to, I'm assuming we would have to rebuild the fence. So, I mean, there's two.
They also do a risk assessment. I read up on this to see what other cities have run into. And they have to do a risk assessment to make sure that the aircraft that have a problem and veer off the runway don't have a worse
The
problem
fence, yeah.
by hitting the fence, so.
Right,
There's
okay.
a give
So
and
no,
take there.
we don't really know exactly where it's gonna
Well,
end up then.
and moving it closer to the runway will probably extend the length, because if you box it around the runway, that's bigger than if you just make a box.
Gotcha.
And one of the things with the height of the fence that we have to be assured of is there are fences deer can jump. They can't jump a 10-foot fence and survive it. I talked to a wildlife biologist, and he said, in all likelihood, that would break their legs.
Hmm.
They could, but they wouldn't survive it. So they know when they can't jump a fence, but you get it down to 8 feet and a deer can jump a fence.
Any other questions? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 5-0. Next item on the agenda, thank you, Greg. Report of city manager.
I have nothing to report.
Commissioner
Oh,
Phelps.
I have a couple things. Tuesday evening, September 20th, it's horticulture night out at the Ag Research Center. K-State sends a team in of experts, and they always talk about turf grass. They've got a gentleman named Rodney St. John comes in and talks about warm season grasses. So that's been drawing a lot of people out there the last few years. And then they also have the master gardeners have their vegetable plot out there. So it's a pretty interesting evening. Starts at 4 o'clock. Registration's at 5:30. Event at 6. And then tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Lawton Ness, will be in Hayes. He's going to be inducted into the Marine Corps League as an honorary member, and it's at the American Legion. That event starts at 4 o'clock, and the public's invited. They have limited seating, but be a great opportunity to go meet our Chief Justice. Good luck, Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate it. Commissioner Jones?
Well, I'd like to thank you, Eber, for your, it's been a pleasure serving with you as your term of mayor, and your attendance, your perfect attendance as mayor has been, that's very impressive, and all the events that you attended and stuff, I just heartfelt thank you, and
Thank you.
and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Swallow?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Byer?
I have two things. First, I want to say thank you to Commissioner Phelps now. I really appreciated being able to serve my first year with you. I think you were a great model to look after. I think one of the great things is just how well everybody has worked together from all different walks of life. I know we haven't always agreed on everything. I mean, sewer cleaning is pretty easy to agree on. I know there are a few things that aren't, but I always felt like even though there may be disagreements, there was still a lot of respect, and I just always appreciated the way you conducted yourself. Also, the perfect attendance that's just impressive. It's something that I wasn't able to live up to the past year and a half. So thank you. And then also I was, I'm sure everybody saw in the news that the University of Kansas Health System and Hayes Medical Center have announced a letter to form together. I guess maybe it's more proper to say Hayes Medical Center is joining the University of Kansas Health System. And this is a great thing for the community. It's a great thing for the hospital. Hopefully it's going to mean more physicians, more specialty physicians, hopefully mean that we can retain our physicians better. It's not just great for the hospital or Hayes, it's great for Western Kansas, if you ask me. It's going to open up a lot more opportunities to patients. I know there's been a lot of talk about, the opportunities that this brings for Hayes, but one of the things that maybe people aren't aware of is that financially this is actually probably more beneficial to the University of Kansas Hospital than it is to Hayes Med, because Hayes Medical Center is run actually extremely well, and they have a lot of cash on hand. And the University of Kansas, as it used to be a state-owned hospital, and I think it was in 1998, actually, Commissioner Phelps probably knows better than me, but I think it was in 1998 when the state sold off the University of Kansas Hospital, so it's not state-owned or affiliated anymore. It's also not affiliated with the University of Kansas. It's actually its own private entity, but it's, it's in a financially good position, but not as good as Hayes Medical Center. So I think it's going to be a good partnership. The University of Kansas just recently, I think just at the beginning of this year, went from being the University of Kansas Hospital to the University of Kansas Health System, which means that they have a lot of private practices that they had bought out. So we're the first hospital that will be joining the health system as a second hospital. So it's new to KU, it'll be new to Hayes Med as well. But as a Hayes Med employee, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be great for the community. So.
That is exciting news. I would like to thank, first of all, the voters of Hayes give me the chance to serve Mayor Hayes, and commissioners allowing me that chance. But I'd also really, like Commissioner Phelps said, you always want to tell your wife, and kids, thank you, and all my family that came from Gilland, Colby, Hayes. I really appreciate you guys coming down. Not all these meetings are real exciting, but I know kids, believe it or not, you guys are learning a lot. And I've had an opportunity when I first started running for commissioner. I believe it was Mayor Stewart first, and then Mayor Swaller. I think who else had to go? And then Phelps. And I also had a lot of help from former mayors, Ron Millick and Barb Wasson. I remember Barb telling me the first conversation I had with her, you better suck it up and get a lot stronger than you are now. And I think I'm realizing that, and I'm getting there, but it's not that easy. But it's I'm exciting. I feel like I'm actually a rookie. However, it's a little bit different staying here than it was when I first started over there. But it's thank you guys for the opportunity, and thank the community of Hayes, and thank you guys for coming down tonight. We are adjourned.